Everyone, my name is Nestor Aguilera, and today I'll be going over how calculus, more specifically ordinary differential equations, can help us understand, predict, and control the spread of infectious diseases. Now, you may be asking yourself, how can numbers possibly help us do that? Well, back in 1927, a pair of guys named Kermick and McKendrick actually created this mathematical model to understand the dynamics of infectious diseases within a certain population. And during this time in 1927, it was actually a huge breakthrough, and it significantly advanced the field of epidemiology. And what's epidemiology, you may be asking? Well, it's the study of how infectious diseases affect the health and illnesses of populations. And what epidemiology really focuses on is the patterns of how these diseases spread. So, what does this Kermick and McKendrick model look like? Well, here's how it works. It's broken into three parts that are all uniquely their own, and it's thoroughly explained by Harris et al. In a 2022 report via the National Library of Medicine. In this report, we divide the population into three groups: susceptible, infected, and recovered. Susceptible is our population, the population that we are looking at, in which we can get this disease. From there on, we make our way down to the I group, which is infected. And then from the I group, we make our way down to our recovered group. And once we get to these groups, we can't move up or down. We can't move back up. So once we stay there, we can only move down. We can only trickle down. And this model, it does have its flaws. For example, our population won't account for people leaving or entering. It also, importantly, won't account for any deaths that this disease may have against our population. Now, those are huge flaws, yes, but that's not what this model was originally intended to do, nor so what it intends to do now. What this model does is it's basically the entry point or base layer for other models to build off of. So this SIR model, how does that look mathematically? Well, this SIR model, like I said, uses ordinary differential equations, which track how groups change over a specific period of time. That specific period of time is up to us. It can be days, weeks, or months, whatever you want to look at. These equations, they're not counting how many people actually get infected or how many people are able to recover. What this equation or model is actually measuring, it's the rates at which people move between the groups and whether they're increasing or decreasing. And we can take a look with our first equation here. We see our derivatives ds over dt, s being our population or susceptible, and t the time frame that we are looking at. To the right of that, we see our rate of change, right? Which first we begin with the fancy looking b, which stands for beta. And here beta tells us how the disease transmission rate, which shows how effective the disease is at spreading between one another. And the negative sign that we see before the beta, that's telling us that we can only lose people from our population or our S group since they have to make their way down to our I group. So the more S people that we have, the more I people we have, that since the disease will be more contagious, right? And moving on to our next equation, our I group, we see derivatives di over dt, and to the right of that, our rate of change, beta and S and I. S population and S and I infected, right? And we notice that there's no negative sign in front of the beta this time since we added people from the S group, right? and they can't make their way back to the S group. They can only make their way down. And to the right of that, we see a subtraction sign with a new term or new variable, the fancy little y. It stands for gamma. And gamma is actually our recovery rate. So how fast one is able to recover from the disease. So that gets added into our rate of change, right? And now introducing that gamma, we subtract the people that recovered from the people that are newly infected, which then makes our way down to our last derivative dr over dt, recovered and the time frame that we're looking at. So in that section, the last section, uh, it shows just how fast one is able to recover, and this group is going to stay put because once you're recovered, you're recovered. You're not going anywhere. So as we saw, these three separate equations, they may be uniquely their own, but they're connected and they help us create a picture of how a disease is able to spread in a controlled population that we're looking at. So why do these equations matter? Or we see how it matters, but you know, they're just extremely important, extremely useful because they're able to capture real world dynamics in a simple form. They're extremely impactful since it allows us to create different scenarios and input them for our beta and our gamma terms or variables. Now, what we can put in for beta and gamma, for beta, we can put in mandates or like mask wearing, social distancing, and for our gamma, we can actually input a vaccine, right? And with that vaccine, we can see how outcomes change, right? And essentially, what it does, it helps us run simulations to see how fast the disease will spread or how long it will last and how many people could be impacted. That's why this model is extremely important because it allows us to guide real world policies for the benefit of us without actually putting it out there. And here we can actually visualize it, right? We can see that our infected population actually, or our population, our susceptible group, how we start off with our full count and it goes down, right? And the reason it goes down and we see it not going up, it's not because people are dying, but it's because people are making their way down to the I group, our infected group. And we see our I group shoot up and peak around 700 because it's taken away from our susceptible group, from our population, which is what the model represents, right? You can only make your way down, you can't make your way back up. But we also see our R group shooting up around 2 months. Well, actually, yeah, 2 months. No, wait, 40 days, my bad. And we see that in the R line, that could include social distancing, vaccines, and so on. So we saw just with that graph how we were able to picture it and include mandates, mask wearing, social distancing, treatment, vaccinations, and how that can shorten a history of disease or the livelihood time of a disease. And we see this SIR model in the works throughout the world. For instance, in a report done through Kacharsky et al. In 2020, we see that in Wuhan, China, where the COVID originated from, we saw that researchers used a basic reproduction number, aka R naught. We can see that, the R with the subscript 0, that's R naught. And that comes from an SIR model. What R is representing in Kacharsky's findings is how many people one person could infect. And that shows how infectious, in this case, the COVID-19 disease was at that time. And thanks to the model, they were able to input what uh, what could help ease the slow of the spread, which in that case was travel restrictions, and that really benefited in slowing the disease, at least in China. So to conclude this SIR model presentation, we saw how vital the use of calculus and rates of change are in order to track the spread of diseases, including how quickly one is able to be infected and how we're able to recover from them, and throwing in mandates and vaccinations and just cleanliness. And the references I use are seen here: PJ Harris and Kacharsky et al. Thank you for watching.